I feel it. Yeah. Go in. Hi everyone, I'm Tara, aka Spirit Mother, and I would like to welcome you all back to my channel on YouTube, Spirit to Spirit Teachers of Going with Self, on TikTok, My Teachers of Going Soul, and I'm also live on my Facebook. If you're new to my channel, I would suggest that people read the description on my YouTube channel, Spirit to Spirit Teachings of Going Within Self, in order to get a better understanding of what it is that I bring forward on my channel, my platform, what have you. Wow. Lately, I've been directed by Spirit to come in and do a lot of stuff with regards to government and politics, because it's really heavy right now. Okay, because right now there's a lot going on between the United States and Canada. A lot of threats and, back and forth and what have you, which is, it's putting the people in the middle. Okay, there's a lot of the governments are going back and forth. The prime minister and the president are talking about tariff wars and tariffs and all this stuff. So today I was watching something, and Spirit guided me to look up what free trade is and what tariffs are and what countries impose tariffs. And I was quite shocked and confused all at the same time. And it's like right now I can feel the nervousness, because it's that part of right now. Like I said, there's a lot of going back and forth. Some think that it's okay, and others think that it's not. Okay. Now, it's the part of enlightenment. So my title today is Free Trade, Government, and Tariffs. Okay. It's like, holy crap, there's some that, I can feel you wanting to try and shut me down. And the reason why they're trying to shut me down, and, my algorithms, everything was just going and going and going until it was found out what I was going to talk about. They really don't want you knowing this. Okay. And most people don't look into it. Okay. So start off with this. Okay. Oh, oops. What is free trade? The meaning of free trade.
Here's the definition of free trade. International trade left its natural course without tariffs, quotas, or other restrictions.
Again, meaning of free trade.
Here's the definition of free trade. International trade left its natural course without tariffs, quotas, or other restrictions.
Now I'll read it. International trade left to its natural course without tariffs or quotas or other restrictions. Now, what are they doing? It's saying free trade is without tariffs or quotas or restrictions. Right now, we have all of that going on. They're putting tariffs, but they say we're free trade. Hello, is anybody awake? I'm serious. Don't believe, like you just heard it. Free trade is without tariffs, but there's talk of tariffs. What is the meaning of tariffs?
Tariff.
Oh shit. Meaning of tariff.
Here's the definition of tariff: a tax or duty to be paid on a particular class of imports or exports.
The rejection of trade barriers and imported tariffs. But yet, when you look up meaning of free trade,
Here's the definition of free trade: international trade left to its natural course without tariffs, quotas, or other restrictions.
does that not just like contradict itself? So if they say we have free trade is no tariffs, quotas, or restrictions, but they implement tariffs on goods and services, the government does. How is that legal? What about it? Think about that. Sit with that. I'm serious. I feel it right now. So who's benefiting it? Who's benefiting from it? The lawyers, right? Because they tell you we have free trade, but in actuality, we have it all open. Something where the rich and wealthy and your businesses and corporations and governments are making money because 9 chance out of 10, when you pay your taxes without tariffs or what have you, you pay income tax or what have you. Maybe you're already paying that. And they're double dipping, quadruple dipping, and up and up and up and up. So how is it that we have free trade, but we have tariffs? This is the stuff that keep people poor. This is the stuff that keep people on the streets without jobs, without homes, without heat, without electricity, without food, without the basic necessities to live. You're taxed every which way. And Donald Trump and Pierre Poilievre, get your shit together because you're both doing the same. Seriously. You're threatening tariffs when tariffs are not, from what I understand, with regards to free trade, tariffs are illegal. Would you like me to do that again for all you to hear again and again and again and again? They give you this lip service, but they keep touting the same thing over and over again so that you will believe what they are saying because, oh, well, we're in power. We're the ones. We got, oh, you got to believe us. We're the businessmen. We're the only ones that know what's right and what's going on. Fuck you do. The only thing you know what right and what's going on is you're fucking stealing from the people and saying that it's the people that are the corrupt ones when it's actually you guys running the country. Chi sta pure dai. Ma che tu cura tu na matateriena. You know, maybe that's why China tell the United States to go fuck itself. You know, your president in the States, they have you duped with regards to this tariff, and Canada is duped with regards to the tariffs. In other countries, I even have a list of the countries that implement tariffs. So I get, and the percentages and what have you. So I guess we're all doing something illegal. Like we're up in the podiums and talking about, oh, we're trying like free trade, like we're making agreements on free trade. Well, if you're making agreements on free trade, how the fuck are you implementing tariffs on the, how are you implementing tariffs? Seriously, people. I know you're not stupid. You're just being manipulated. And I know you're smarter than that. See, this is stuff they don't teach, stuff they don't teach you in school to keep you dumb. Has anybody ever seen like scrolling through TikTok of what the kindergarten are doing in China or Asia or some places like that? They're learning life skills and they're having fun doing it. And what do we learn? We learn how to be discriminatory against people of different religious beliefs or you know how they perceive themselves by way of gender identity. Donald Trump, he wants to throw the immigrants, Europe or the A, you know, he wants to do the same thing. Instead of doing what's right, they don't mind taking the taxes from the immigrants, and they don't mind the immigrants going out and working in these deadbeat jobs when they actually get a better dream, but got more of a nightmare maybe. I'm not saying it's immoral because I guess it has more to do with who you know, right? You know, Donald Trump has a lot of wealthy people with him that he wants to put in power with him. And, you know, so does Pierre Poilievre. Well, I watched a thing today where Pierre Poilievre is friggin' like endorsements from Elon Musk. Yeah. I have to ask, how can I get endorsements from outside of the country? And not only that, what are they allowed? Is that not like stacking the deck and building the monopoly? But the monopoly for their billionaire, millionaire, trillionaire friends, you know, because let's see, Trump has a empire with buildings, right? Pierre Poilievre has an empire. He was a lot affiliated with the oil and gas company. Pierre Poilievre, that's all you ever hear. Like in Donald Trump, all you ever hear is basically drill, drill, drill. Let's like get all this oil and gas and what have you. But then the ones that want more of a, what's that word for it? sustainable energy, because the sustainable energy is not what you drill or what you frack. Sustainable energy is what comes directly from Mother Earth and her universe. Wind, earth, air. Prefer not fire. Do I think we should be having these windmills? No, because they do make sounds. I lived out in the country and someone had it, and everybody was complaining about the high pitched sound it would make. Almost drive you crazy. Plus, like with the birds and what have you. Right? So people say solar panels. Well, solar panels they're not much better, and that's all been around. Say heat pumps. Well, heat pumps are still using coal, right? Because it's electricity. So it's that part of anybody ever hear of Stephen Greer? Other not just Stephen Greer, many other people talk about the free energy. All you need is little books. Even run your cars and stuff like that. Trump, he just wants to get ahead with the AI, but we are beyond AI. AI is more of something that is more of a control type thing because it's an artificial intelligence, right? Sorry, but I want my alpha intelligence. So, talking all about free trade and tariffs and what have you. So, you know, in all honesty, no, I don't like any part of the government, but it's like it's not about throwing everything out in the way that people need to. It's about getting rid of the corruption within the system, and it's to start with the ones that are saying that we are your saviors, but the only ones that they're working to help are themselves and their corporate. Pierre, yeah, I'm with you. Pierre Poilievre, he's no better because he says so many things towards Trump. And if people want a Trumper, want a Trump, go live in the States and see how you like it. Because there's a lot of people that, they say about with regards to friggin' what you pay for medical expenses. Okay, well, here we have what we're said to have free health, but there's still a bit of up in the air about that. We actually have free health. Do I pay anything when I go to the doctor? We're paying that in our taxes, right? But hospitals are asking for donations because the government only gives a percentage. They give more money to their corporate buddies for bailing them out and buying the votes than they do for what's in the best interest of the people as a whole. So it's not part of make Donald Trump is make United States great again, America great again. Pierre Poilievre, he's basically touting the same thing. It's like, how about we make the world great? How about we work together instead of saying, what was the word he used? Uh, Being the leader in AI and all this stuff. Because in all actuality, the stuff we have, the biggest majority of it was created by people and it was stolen. And a lot of inventions, I will say it, because you're finding out that a lot of inventions were created mostly by women or a person with feminine. It's neither male or female, but it's someone who actually cares. But this tariff stuff, it's just making them no money. How many of you knew that we don't, when the United States government was saying about banning TikTok, Pierre Poilievre was jumping on board with that too. He's going to do the same thing. I mean, he says the same thing Trump says with everything with regards, if it's not like in your favor, well, it's fake news. Doesn't matter what side you look on, whether you look on the far right or the far left, they're both corrupt. So let's see what free trade means, what free trade says. Oh well, we might be a while tonight too. Free trade is a trade policy that does not restrict imports or exports. In government, free trade is predominantly advocated by political parties that hold economically liberal positions, while economic nationalists and left wing political parties generally support protectionism, the opposite of free trade. Oh shit, you gotta put that down. Yeah. This is I have it up here on my board. Some will say, "Ooh, you're using Wikipedia." Well, when you see my body react like that, that tells it all. And if there's something in there that it is not right, then spirit will come through me and let me all know whether people can use that. But now I'm feeling it right in here. So it's like, please put that in there. And I was like nationalist and protectionism. The other day I did a video on fascism, and oligarchy. Go look that up. Seriously, because that's what you're dealing with right now. It was the two sides coming together to work together to pull the wool over your eyes, to keep you blinded from their true ignorance and greed. There, when that pastor, she uh, had a prayer thing with regards to Trump and his family didn't like that. And all she was asking for was mercy for people because he said that he was going to like put two genders and he was going to kick out immigrants. People don't agree with that. And people don't agree with the transgender LGBTQ community. I know, I'll tell you right now, there's good in it and there's bad. But what part is corrupt? The corrupt is probably the part that, wants to have it all gone. Is to do that. The Sexual Sterilization Act I meant to do. But it all comes together. So I guess we're going to talk about a few things, okay, including the Sexual Sterilization Act. So let's do this. Most nations are today members of the World Trade Organization multilateral trade agreements. States can ultimately or unilaterally reduce regulations and duties on imports and exports, as well as form bilateral and multilateral free trade agreements. Free trade areas between groups of countries such as the European Economic Area and the Mercosur open markets established a free trade zone among members while creating a protectionist barrier between that free trade area and the rest of the world. Most governments still impose some protectionist policies that are intended to support local employment, such as applying tariffs to imports or subsidies to exports. Governments may also restrict free trade to limit exports of natural resources. Other barriers that may hinder trade include import quotas, taxes, and non-tariff barriers, such as regulatory. You know what? Right now, go look up free trade and tariffs, okay? Because I'm going to stick to my original plan. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to be changing the title because I'm going to be putting it, I'm switching over to the Sexual Sterilization Act because that's what's taking place right now. A lot of also what's taking place because this year it pertains to us. But I was watching a video today, Spirit brought the video to me, with regards to Donald Trump's nephew having a disabled child. There was a documentary on 60 Minutes Australia. Right? It was a documentary about Donald Trump's nephew having a son who was extremely disabled. He had seizures from the time he was little. He's unable to talk. And, you know, what he said was that Donald Trump told him, basically, why don't you just let me go? And I just heard thank you, Sarah. So let's do this. Eugenics to Canada. Canadians supporting eugenics policies in the early 20th century, including some medical professionals, politicians, and feminists. But it's not the right kind of feminist. Because Mary Magdalene, she would not have agreed to that. Would it die? And nor would Yeshua or Jesus, whichever one it was, because there was two, Jesus and Yeshua, whether people were to believe that or not. So And I looked into this. I looked into this like back in 2020 when this all started, when COVID all started. I looked into it in 2020. And I actually put it up on my Facebook and I've actually spoke about it quite a few times on some of my lives. So what I'm going to do is we'll watch a video. This is the documentary. It's 30 minutes long. Roughly. Tomorrow I'll do the chairs, but here we go. So why did you decide to tell this story now?
Well, the story
Okay.
is
Yeah, we're gonna. It's full interview. Donald Trump's nephew tells all ahead of White House return. 60 minutes of stuff. Here we go. You know, if you're new to my channel and you're just coming in, I always encourage people to go and read the description on my YouTube channel, Spirit to Spirit Teachings of Going Within Self, in order to get a better understanding of what my channel is about, because, I even put my own shit out there. This is what we're dealing with right now, the Sexual Sterilization Act. So I'm going to turn this off, so then it's not up there. So let's go with this. Why did you decide to tell the story now?
well, this story was to honor my father, Donald's older brother, Fred, who was a very caring and charismatic guy. And also my young son, William, who has complex disabilities and is the most courageous and inspirational person I know, and who opened the door for me to advocate on behalf of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. To tell that story, I felt I needed to dive a little deeper in my family, which is very complex and it's sometimes cruel. And of course, you couldn't tell that story without telling the story of Donald. The difference between any other book, is that I knew Donald during his formative years. He's the first one to go to Delphi. We shared that passion. I've known him through his school years, through his business career, and through his political career. And in the White House, where I went down often to visit him. We have been advocating for disabled figures. When Donald was elected, we went down 3 months later and started with a group of very experienced and great advocates. So we have been advocating. The reason we waited to write a book was really based on the word. He was moving into a group home setting, and we wanted to make sure that he was all ready and set up in that situation, which he is now. So we thought the time was right.
How would you describe your uncle? What kind of a man is he?
He is electromagnetic energy.
Now, I wasn't experiencing this today.
When I knew him when I was a kid, he did have this charming, caring side. But it was laced with situations where his inner demons would come out. There's a part in the book from the family where I was sitting with his younger brother, Ron, my uncle, and Donald said, Fred, or I won't say my nickname, hit Uncle. And I did. I was about 6 years old. And Rob went back with the back of his hand and slapped me around the face. Now, why he would say to do that, I don't know. But it is carried on. He is a tough guy. and he absolutely wants his own way. He'll do what it takes to get there.
Is he a bully? Is he a racist?
He says things that can be taken as racist. He espouses things that racist people will do. He associates with racist. I don't know if I'm in a position to say that makes me a racist. I personally just don't believe that he does that. He will take people and demean them, and that's unfortunate.
Is he crazy?
Well, I don't know if they claim crazy or he should be locked up but he does crazy things. From having his younger brother slap his nephew in the face to leading an insurrection on January 6th.
All the traits that you write about in the book, is he a product of his family?
Yes, my grandfather was a very driven guy. In fact, that's how I described him when he passed away, when I eulogized him. Very driven, not very emotional. The word love was not thrown around very often in the Trump household. My grandfather worked very hard to succeed. He literally came from nothing. And Donald wanted to follow in those footsteps, and he would do whatever it took to get there.
So what then are the Trump family values or priorities?
Money and power. It's not my end of the family, not my wife, Lisa, or my children, Andrew, Christopher, and William. Donald's branch, if you will. It's about money and power.
What was Donald's relationship like with his brother, your father?
Very complicated, as always. My dad, again, was a free spirit. And, he wanted to become an airline pilot, and he did. And my grandfather was not very happy about that. So Donald was sent to basically give the message to my dad that he's not making it. He's not following in his father's footsteps. And that called my father a glorified bus driver. What's interesting is my father was basically giving Donald the path he wanted, which was to succeed his father in the family business. But Donald couldn't help himself and just had to crush my dad's spirit, which he did. It's interesting, just to give you an example, and there are many of them, of the type of person my father was. When Donald wanted to get into the University of Pennsylvania, he went to my dad, and my dad knew a friend from Lehigh University, where my dad graduated from. I went there, my son Christopher went there, and his friend became a member of the admissions department of UPenn. And that's and Donald says this to me many times, that is what really helped him get into the school.
You say your father didn't follow the expected path into the family business. How did that impact his standing, his position in the family?
Again, that was not something anybody wanted to do. Dad was definitely the black sheep of the family. And with all the pressures put on him, Dad turned to drinking and was an alcoholic. And that was very embarrassing to my family. And I still think that that's the reason why my sister Mary and me are treated like second-class citizens, if you will, in the family.
So the way they viewed your father, you really flowed into how they viewed you and how they treated you.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm the only one I was in real estate, as I mentioned, but I got my own jobs, each and every one of them.
Sorry, I'm pausing that because the Mary that he's talking about is the woman that wrote this book. Mary Trump, PhD. She is a registered psychologist. The Reckoning, Our Nation's Trauma and Finding a Way to Heal. And then this book here. Mary Trump, Who Could Ever Love You? And she actually has a interview herself on YouTube. It's not about bashing anybody. It's about doing what's right.
Didn't work for the family business and didn't want to.
I want to talk a little bit about racism, which you mentioned briefly. You write about witnessing Donald Trump's racist comments when you were quite young.
I was 10 years old. And I was at my grandparents' house, as I often was, and I could hear Donald screaming when I was in the backyard, and I went to where he was in my grandparents' driveway. And he was extremely angry. He had a white Eldorado convertible with a black top. He had a roll of black electrical tape in his hand.
Think of the movie Back to the Future. He didn't have an Eldorado, but something quite similar to it.
And would put two strips about a foot or so long to cover up the slice marks. And he said the N-word twice. And if that wasn't bad enough to my 10-year-old ears, he didn't know who did it. And that was equally troubling to me. He just assumed that it was someone who was black.
What did that tell you?
And just a preconceived notion of somebody that he lesser than him had done it. And if you don't mind, another story, right around the same time, I had a new bike, and I was riding near my house, and three young black kids, probably my age, came up and stole the bike. About a day later, the police called my mother. They had found the young guy who had done it, and called Donald to go down to the police station with me to identify him. And Donald was having this young guy thrown in jail. And I don't know what it was in me that said, no, I can't be responsible for this kid's life being punished by something that in the end was really a minimal thing. I wasn't hurt. They didn't try to hurt me. It was a fight. And the thought of this kid being put in jail and having a bunch of murder just was unacceptable.
It strikes me that Donald Trump will never admit that he's wrong, even when it's clear as day. Has he always been like that?
He has always been like that. Always.
Where do you think that comes from? Just a lack of empathy or a lack of, is it ego? Is it, doesn't want to lose face?
I used to joke that Donald has the biggest ego on the planet, but I don't really think that's saying anything that's not totally true. I think he's got the biggest ego of anyone. He has to be. That's his brand. He can't lose it. He has to be the winner, whatever it takes.
He's very fond of describing himself as the best president for the black population. What do you make of that?
I mean, what he's good at is he'll come up with some statistics that make you almost say, oh, you know what, maybe he's right. I don't get it. I'm shocked when some of his supporters who are black are so totally in. I think he has the populism in him to make folks that he really doesn't care about feel good about themselves and that he's there to protect them. What he's using them is as pawns, and he will cast them aside when he is done with what he needs from them.
You. Tell me about yourself. You.
Are people hearing this? And people say, oh, well, he's got a grudge on it. Does he really? Or is he just speaking the truth? And the one lying is the one you're looking to. I'm not saying that he's not saying good things. But it's that part of, is he going to follow through with it, or is he going to do the same fucking thing? Porque patatari es that.
William's 25 years old now. He was like Lisa and I, 100 years old. But he's doing very well medically. He was born with with epilepsy. He had hundreds of seizures a day until they were controlled by medication, which he still on to this day. What we struggle with on a daily basis is getting him a meaningful day program. What some people may not understand is that if you're disabled and you're a child, you have the ability to go to school and have therapies within that realm. Once you turn adults, that goes away. So having programs put in place to keep the disabled healthy and doing something for the community to make them feel viable in our society is very important.
And what is William like? I know he's non-verbal, but his personality and one of the things that that he enjoys.
Well, if you can see his eyes, it tells you everything. He just exudes happiness. People fall madly in love with him right away. As I said, he's incredibly creative. But William is one of millions of people with disabilities. And we are lucky to be able to care for him the way we'd like to. So many families are struggling financially to take care of their family members. And that's something in this country we really need to change.
What role has Donald Trump played in William's life? Has he spent time with him, supported him?
When William was born, he was at Mount Sinai Hospital in Manhattan on the Upper East Side, where I was born, my sister was born, and all three of my kids were born. Donald and his siblings, my aunts and uncles, all lived within a half-mile radius. They never came to visit him in the hospital. They never called to see how he was doing. To this day, none of my aunts and uncles, and Donald is the only one remaining with me in Elizabeth. To this day, none of them have asked to see him.
Why do you think that is?
I can only answer for Donald. I don't. He doesn't like to be seen around people who have issues. Wounded veterans, the disabled. He is not at rallies. And I think you know the story I'm talking about with the New York Times reporter that he mocked just viciously. If that wasn't bad enough, the crowd went wild over it. And I can't understand how anyone could act like that.
It's a very odd behavior. Where do you think that comes from? Is it that he doesn't have empathy or doesn't see value in people that he perceives to be vulnerable or perhaps beneath him?
He'll ask about William, sometimes, how's he doing? And one time when Lisa and I went to visit him in his office, he said, what's with William? What caused this? And Lisa said, oh, it's a genetic mutation. And his first response, not our genes.
The Trump genes would be superior and couldn't possibly be connected to him.
Although in the case of my father with his alcoholism, Donald did say, oh, there's something in the genes. One thing, but not the other. I don't get that, but that's what he is.
At one point, when William's medical fund was running low, he called him to ask for help. What did he say?
Well, if you don't mind, if I can put this in context, back in 2000, when William was just out of 7 weeks in hospital, I received a letter from Donald's attorney basically saying that my supervisor would cut out of my grandfather's will. I subsequently learned that Donald had actually schemed to cut us out. He was in very, very bad financial straits at the time. So bad, so humiliating that the banks had to put him on an allowance.
Was that? Because the same year, Donald Trump, the time that his father died, he was in dire financial. Okay. Now it was yesterday or the other day I was on and they talked about Rickon. And it's that part of, I'm asking if he was in dire straits and if you look up Rickon and the symptoms of it, it can be pneumonia because it builds up fluid. You have Rickon I am going to ask the question. I'm not saying who did it. But it's that part of, if someone is in financial dire straits, like someone like what he's this man speaks of his brother Donald Trump, I would be looking at, especially when he cut his own, when he had his father cut his own niece and nephew out of the will. You know, think about it. He just got done saying that Donald would do anything. And it also said that Donald Trump spoke about himself in the eulogy when he went to his father's funeral.
But the point is, after my father died, Donald was named as my trustee. He was my trustee. He is supposed to make sure that my interests are taken care of. Yet he had to plan to steal money from Marion. In 2009, Lisa and I went to Donald and said, the expenses are outrageous. The world is in financial stress also. We said, is there anything you and my aunts and uncles could do? And they said, which is, we were very grateful for. Again, the issue for me was me asking for what really was right for you.
When you receive who's the notification that you were being cut off? Were you surprised? Were you shocked? Talk me through those emotions.
Yeah, I honestly was surprised. I didn't see it coming. And, I look back and wonder why, in fact, my aunts and uncles did come to visit. And one thing I come up with is, we knew about this plan, and we looked really long of them to come visit as they're getting ready to watch this missile.
And are you convinced that Donald was leading the charge?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you have the fund, which is helping to cover these exorbitant medical costs for living. And at one point it was running low, and he did ring your uncle and ask for some help. And what was his response?
His response was, he doesn't recognize you, let him die, and move to Florida. Now, I don't know how you can explain one human being saying that without any other human being, but to say it to your about your
Lack of
grandnephew
empathy,
is still something I can't
which is
understand
dangerous.
and maybe don't want to understand. So I just thought about it for a second. I said, no, he does recognize it. And that was the end of that conversation.
This man is a father too. He had his own son.
Yeah, I don't know. And as you can imagine, that was one thing that really resonates with the people who have read the book.
Yeah, I mean, it really stuck with me. I was trying to put myself in your shoes with all that you're going through and wife Lisa. How did it make you feel in that moment?
I really didn't know how to explain it. I obviously first went to Lisa, but I called some very good friends who have known Donald for a very long time. In fact, one of my oldest friends, whose family also knew Donald way back, just to say, am I missing something here? Is that just cruelty beyond belief? And they said, this is what you got.
In 2020, you went to the Oval Office to ask your uncle, the president, for support as you were advocating for people with disabilities. How did that go?
We had been having meetings since 2017, and it culminated in that White House meeting in the Oval Office. And he was very interested in what we had to say. And funny enough, not funny, one of the things we were talking about is how we need to figure out a way to make the system more efficient so that we could have lower cost and better care for people with disabilities. A bipartisan issue, I would think. When the meeting dispersed, I was called that day. I was greeted by Donald's familiar, "Hey, Donald, how's it going?" And I thanked him for sitting with us for 45 minutes, which was longer than I had thought. And he said, "Those people, the costs, they should just die." I'm just happy that the many people in that office were there to take that directly.
Those people, including your son.
Yes. There was really no way to respond to that film. I just again said thanks. And I appreciate your time.
It's extraordinarily cool, isn't it?
Yes. I don't know how anyone can muster up that kind of thought process and verbalize.
Did you see that, like, empathy across his presidency?
Oh, sure. For me, one of the examples came again a wounded veteran senator from senator for many years. And during the inauguration ceremony, John McCain was sitting behind me and my family. And I had told the kids that when it's over, we're going to say hi to Senator McCain. And I introduced him with a word I rarely use, that he's a hero. And for those who may not know why it was so important for me to do that, Donald had basically said he's not a hero. He was captured. I didn't like people who were captured. John McCain, and it's not even fair to compare this because there's no comparison.
Donald Trump is sitting there doing the shocking thing that Americans are a little bit desensitized. And we've all seen him make these outrageous comments. We've seen him, mocking himself. But to hear him saying, let those people die, and to include in that someone in his own family, is, I think, another level of cruelty. Or I think people will be really stubborn with that.
Yeah, I think you used the right word. People are sometimes desensitized to what he says, and if you notice, and I'm sure you do, that he'll say something time and time and time and time again, and that's just to get people to believe it. When he was starting out in his business career in the city, having moved from Brooklyn and Queens.
He is the type of Donald Trump is the type of person who I know other people like because my ex-husband doesn't. He insults you and leaves you to think that he's only joking when they're actually serious.
Everything was the greatest. Great, 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 great. And I used to joke, is he saying that to try to convince people or trying to convince himself? So it has been his way of trying to get people to believe in what he said.
When you left the office that day, and I know you've made advocating for people with disabilities such a priority. You've made it to the Oval Office and you've got this access because your uncle's president and you've had this meeting. You must have felt quite buoyed and optimistic. And then your uncle says to you, maybe we should just let them die. How did you feel leaving the office that day?
Deflated, I guess is the word. Disappointed is not. Disappointed is a very un-Trumpian word. It's not something he usually says, although he seems to say it all the time. It was unimaginable to me to hear that and to try to process it.
So let's say you have to read an incredibly long email from the books that you have to finish before the big ones starts.
Yeah, it must have taken some time.
And I think another point is being in that position of power. Why not? If it took the fact that you had a family member, a grandnephew with that condition, wouldn't that make you even more want to try to help people?
You would think so. I think for most normal people.
For most normal people, yes, I think so.
Shouldn't use the word normal, but I think for most people who change for everyone? Do you think we can expect more of the same?
It is not softened, and it's going to get nasty. It's going to get ruthless and dirty, and you better buckle your seatbelts.
What are your concerns? Can you picture for me of the Trump 2.0 White House? What worries you the most?
I have skimmed through Project 2025, and I think it's a dangerous dystopian view of this country's future. Donald is also, they call him the merry band of miscreants, the advisors and people who will have in this administration. I certainly didn't agree with many of them, his cabinet secretaries and those around him, and I had the opportunity to meet a few of them. But you can use the expression that was thrown around. At least they were guardrails to keep him in check. And that's gone. These people, it has been planned for since the day he left the White House. He was not going to let that deter him from running again and doing whatever it took to be reelected.
Was there any time in his life where there were opportunities for him?
That tells me that the people who didn't vote him back in, or if he didn't get voted back in, he wants to hurt the people.
Into, I suppose, positive influences or change his path and the way he interacted?
I was seeing someone the other day, much like I was just saying, he had the ability to do real good. Just take the Trump charity, for instance. It ended up in litigation because he was cheating people out of charities. And I just say to myself, why does everything have to be a scheme? Why does everything have to be unbelievable? And it's to get back to one of your original questions. He just wants the power and wants the money. And when he was first running back in 2015, when he announced, there were a few of the family members, me and Clinton, said, to be a great exercise. He really wants to win this. He wants to get to the finish line and cash in. Now, I know some people think that he wants to win at all costs. Winning to him is a lot of money. Just think of it. The hotel down there, the misdeeds with charging foreign governments and things like that. Everything is a scheme to make.
So he's still a deal maker and a deal breaker.
Absolutely. There's no doubt.
After the estate case, how did you come out of that?
Go watch Once Upon a Time. When I say the dark one, it's for still schemes and contracts that he breaks. He only can break. You break him, and out. That's it. He'll come after you. This is Once Upon a Time. That series is telling us something. Easy, Rolly. I know you didn't mean to. You're trying to get me to rub your face.
What was your relationship like with Donald Trump since all that legal drama?
It's an interesting question, and people obviously do ask me about it. How could you possibly want to have a relationship with him? And I guess this book has been cathartic in many ways, but it shows that I'm more resilient than I thought I was. I have a lot of the goodness from my father and my mother. And months after the settlement, which was interesting because Donald, of course, always says he never settles anything. Well, I guess I won because I settled. I received a phone call that he wanted me to become an honorary one of his documents. As I mentioned before, we both share a position for no. And so the only way I'm going to do it is if was like the old days. We just had a lot of fun. And we had lunch afterwards, and when it was time to go, he said to me, "We're done, right?" And some people would think that it was okay, our relationship is done, we keep it after we have it. But it wasn't. It was, we're done with the animosity. We're burying the hatchet here. He actually even hugged me, which I can't remember him doing since maybe I was a young child. But it was good. And, from then on, we did. If I needed to call him while he was in office, he would answer the phone. He would leave Lisa and the kids and I messages on New Year's Eve. "Oh, this is your favorite president. Wishing you all a happy New Year." So he does have that ability to be kind and funny. And then he did that horrendous thing regarding women. And I don't know if I can bounce back from that. And people say, if he wins, and would you go to the inauguration, or would that be hypocritical? And I say to myself, it'd be hypocritical not to go, because I've got a mission. Whether he's in office or not, I will find a way to use the voice I have right now to advocate on people with disabilities. If he can bury the hatchet one more time, and I can get him convinced to this time do something good, that would be great. And I've said several times, he doesn't like to lose, and not to sound straight, but he's the loser for not getting to know them. William inspires so many people, and so many of the disabled who fight every day. Not the big fight that he talks about, but the real fight. People are hurting. They don't have a voice. They need to have a voice, and that's what we're going to give them. Nova Scotia homeowner, do you have a power meter on the side of your house like this? If so, you.
Like, I know many people have had disabilities. Different things. There's mental health disabilities because people can't function. I'm on a disability. I've been on it since 2012 because of my car accident, and it's struggling to get work. Like I have a like some people would could class what I have as a disability, but it's a disability that it disables me in the way of being able to get work. Because when I was going through my digital program, the instructor, she told me that, we can't put you out in public. After telling me that I had many gifts. And I found out that she was healthy. So now I have the sexual sterilization unit, right? Listening to, right? There's many people out there disabled right now, and in Canada, I believe it was roughly 2 years ago or thereabouts, they had implemented a thing where if you have mental health issues and you want euthanasia, they'll give it to you. But if you have mental health, they say that you're not capable of signing any contracts, papers, or documents or what have you for certain. If you have suicidal thoughts or suicidal tendencies, what they tell you, so they're actually contradicting what they tell people to go get help with. And then they're saying, well, here, we can look here. they've been doing that with veterans too. And Donald Trump said that we should all die. We're the desirable. That's a part of Donald Trump. When last did you look in the mirror? Seriously. I guess you got to be pretty narcissistic to run a country. I guess you got to be pretty narcissistic to put together a sexual sterilization act. And say it's a sexual sterilization act. It was implemented in 1928. When I first started, like today, I watched that video and I was going to come on, and then I got sidetracked because it was like something else was trying to come in to distract me from bringing forward what really needs to be forward. I mean, like I said about what free trade is, and tariffs contradict free trade. But that was to try to distract me. I could do that stuff too. That's the important thing because I said the other day that I was going to do a video with regards to the sexual sterilization. I'm sorry, you're asking who what? You're asking who? So I have the Sexual Sterilization Act up here. Okay, not sure if any of you have actually read it when I mentioned it the other night. Yeah, take your propaganda elsewhere, please. I said about sexual sterilization act. It's going to do everything. So, sexual sterilization act. The Sexual Sterilization Act was a law enacted in 1920 by the Legislative Assembly of Alberta, Canada. Get it? Supported by influential social groups. The act was aimed to redress social problems by preventing the transmission of personality traits deemed undesirable to offspring and therefore allowed for sterilization of mentally disabled people. At that time, and eugenicists argued that mental illness, mental retardation, epilepsy, alcoholism, purpurius, Pauperismi. What is that? It is the condition of being received administrated under the Irish certain criminal behaviors and social defects, such as prostitution and sexual perversion, were genetically determined and inherited. Further, it is widely believed that persons with these disorders had a higher reproduction rate than the normal population, leading to a gradual societal decline. During the time of the Sexual Sterilization Act was enacted, 4,800 cases were proposed for sterilization in the province of Alberta, of which 99% received approval. So Canada has its own drug laws. It's not just the states. It's Canada too. And the sexual sterilization act is everywhere, and that's what was taking more so. That's what was more so taking place in World War II during genocide. Because to them, the Jewish community was undesirable. Can't get people to do it, back secretly, like that, or, you know. I went and when I was 20 because I had a really bad miscarriage. I was hemorrhaging really bad, and they told me, well, I had to sign a form giving them permission to give me a hysterectomy if they couldn't get it started. And I also had to sign a form with regards to a blood transfusion. And then I had to sign another one because they didn't have my blood group, but they had to be able to get me with placebo, and it would make me feel good. Now, when I was 20, I went to my doctor and I told him, I just want my tubes tied. Right? Because when I get older and I get married to something, you want to have some children. Well, that was in 1995. In 2003, I wasn't cool. I was understanding that, I was going in and tying my tubes. It was reversible. And then in 2003, I ended up finding out that the doctor, he didn't just tie my tubes. He cut my tubes, burnt them, and tied them. So he sterilized me. Illegally. And then well, that's how they do it. No, that was not how they were supposed to do it. They were only supposed to tie my tubes. Not cut and burn them. When you received approval, examination of sterilization records demonstrated that legislation did not apply equally to all members of society. Specifically, the Act was disproportionately applied to those in society's vulnerable positions, including females, children, unemployed persons, domestic servants, royal citizens, unmarried, institutionalized persons. In 1999, I lost custody of my son. And I lost custody of my son because I didn't have a job, because I was unmarried. I was an institutionalized person, and I had no other choice. So I was nothing somebody that wasn't giving anything to the community, but I was in many other ways. You know, Roman and Greek Catholics and persons of Ukrainian, Native and Métis ethnicity. These are the ones that they don't live with. Controversial even at the time of its introduction, the act was repealed in 1972. Meaning of repeal.
Here's the definition of repeal, revoke, or annul, a law or congressional act.
Enactment. The Sexual Sterilization Act was first introduced into legislation on March 5th, 1927. But due to the crowded session and unclear bill format, it was pulled from the schedule. On February 23rd, 1928, George Hoadley, Minister of Health, reintroduced the bill with a comment regarding the growing burden of taxpayers in caring for immigrants and mentally disabled people. See? Holy shit, people! I'm not going through this just because I think it's fun. Except part of, do you know what light is? Love and light, love and light. Everyone's saying love and light, love and light. Do you know what love and light is? Love is when you care enough to bring this shit forward to the people to enlighten them to the truth of why they're seeing and experiencing what they're experiencing. We're in it again. Much controversy surrounded the bill, and eventually, in March 28th, the People's League to Act was formed. The People's League to Act. The League, with membership numbers of several hundred, retained counsel and contested the constitutionality of the sexual sterilization. Despite their efforts, the act was given royal assent on March 21st, 1928. Didn't I say last night or the other night or what happened was my doing the last video? I said that it was roundabout between the March 21st and March 26th of 1928. Oh, holy fuck. When you see this, what you're experiencing is that it's true. It's like they're trying to beat the shit out of me for it, or bringing it forward. Throw some more. I might look like a crazy lady, but know what you're fucking talking about before you call me a crazy lady. This is like my channel is spirit to spirit. And I'm exposing the ones that did this. And if you're experiencing any anger or what have you towards me for it, then what you're experiencing is parts of those spirits. For the purpose of the act, the Alberta Eugenics Board was formed. The Alberta Eugenics Board was an agency created by the Alberta government in 1928 that attempted to impose sterilization on a disabled subset of its population in accordance with the principles of eugenics. It remained active until 1972 when it was dissolved. Doesn't it? I just said it doesn't mean you're losing it now, doesn't it? What's happening? Seriously. Only, they like to do things in secret. I'm not saying this. I'm not saying it's wrong because there was two sides to it. Some didn't want it, and others did. Set up there that basically we were a strain on society. Go read it. You might fucking learn something, and you might learn why you're sick and your children are sick and your parents and your grandparents, or do you care about that? And it's not to make people feel guilty. And when they had that thing about the pastor that made the prayer with Donald Trump and asked mercy for the people, that wasn't to have people feel guilty or anything like that. That was somebody who was stating the truth. There was this evangelical pastor that said what she did was wrong. Seriously? No wonder you can't answer me when I asked you if mental health and spiritual health go hand in hand. Because you don't even fucking know what you're talking about. You're the kind of pastor I would never want to go to. It's ones like that that makes the church look so bad. And it's those types of teachings. She did nothing wrong. So what if she took that opportunity? Good for her. I'm proud of her. The only reason why they didn't like it is because they got humiliated. Yeah? The board was to be composed of four members, two medical practitioners nominated by the Senate of the University of Alberta and the Council of the College of Physicians. That would be physicians and surgeons, because that's what it's called now. Yeah? Good. I'm glad I'm a bitch. It's that part of, just remember what you do to me, it comes back. And it ain't because I'm throwing it back. Might look crazy, but like I said, before you tell me I'm crazy. Know exactly what it is that you're fucking witnessing. Two persons other than medical practitioner appointed by the Lieutenant Governor, Lieutenant. What is that? Or vice governor. He is a high officer of state whose precise role and rank vary by jurisdiction. Often a vice governor or lieutenant is the deputy or lieutenant vice, deputy or vice. Two, or ranked under a governor, a second in command, rather like deputy governor. That says in council. Under the terms of the act, mental hospitals inmates could only be discharged with the approval of medical superintendent, and it was within the superintendent's power to force an examination by the energetics board. So the doctor tells you when you can eat. And that's the thing, they have too much power. They figure they can lock you up. And it's human rights. It's the way they do things. They don't, it's not, I'm saying they're not all like that. But locking people away, you ever been in a mental institution? Even just a calm one in the hospital. There's nothing to do in there. It's plexiglass. They can lock you in your room anytime they want. When I was in there, I was in my room and I was seeing smoke. And then I went over to the but I knew what I was seeing. He was trying to gas me. I guess she tried to gas me. Oh yeah. Yeah. Did you try? Now, when I look back, like that was the same time I was awoken and I was abruptly awakened in the middle of my sleep because it was like a fucking transformer went off in my head, and my head was right by an electrical outlet. You know, we have the ability to affect shit like that. Problem, electrical therapy, right? Maybe I was experiencing something. Maybe you actually was hoping that, you know, put them to sleep, you know, take them somewhere and give them electroshock therapy without their knowledge or consent. And I was just experiencing a memory of it, an after effect of this. Yeah, yeah, good. I'm glad I'm a fucker, you assholes. Spirit to spirit. If I look crazy, you might want to know what you're actually witnessing. Because if people don't think that they're not watching you and they can't send shit at you, you're sadly mistaken. We might look like crazy people, but we're not fucking crazy people. The only reason why they want to make us look like that is because they know that we're telling the truth. I had my sister one time tell me she wouldn't want to have to go through what I'm going through. But, to me, it's worth it. Yeah. Power by forced examination of the eugenics board. If in anonymous agree, if in anonymous agreement, the board was empowered to appoint a physician and direct sterilization. Yeah. My channel spirit, spirit. Such operations were not to be performed unless consent was obtained from the inmate. If competent or consent from spouse, parent, guardian, or minister of health, if considered in, incompetent. Let me see, when I went in there in the beginning of 2021, not long after Christmas, I went in there. Well, I called myself because I was experiencing some really fucked up strange shit. I was going through a lot of motions of different things, reliving different things, and I was even looking out the window like a little kid, going, "Gaba, gaba, gaba, que puto tu madre, gaba," and I was looking right at the sun. But the reason why I ended up calling them is because I felt like a wild animal. I felt like more like a wolf, a dog, or something. I was literally snarling. You see these transgender kids that was up against some adults, and they were similar, and they were like that at the adults. My ex-husband does that sometimes. Well, when I was going through this, I wasn't doing that, but I was like I was more snarling, and I was running around trying to find raw meat, raw deer meat. I didn't know what I was experiencing. So I called the crisis department, and I got my ex-husband. And that was when I was smoking, or I told him about it. And he said, "Oh, well, it must be from the smoke shop. So go back." What? Oh, what? You asshole! Okay. Now I know what happened. You got a lot of shit going on down in your basements, don't you? I had a vision that it was like I was down in a basement of a hospital, and there were these people walking around. They looked like they were fucking zombie dead people. And then they showed me the way out. So now I know that, there was no way. The transformer outside didn't blow up, so I knew that. And, I couldn't have stuck my finger in a light socket, even if it was by my bed, because let me see, a plug, you had to like really push it really hard to put it in the plug. So I was remembering that they gave me electroshock therapy. Fuckers! They did the same thing to my mother and to a guy that was in the hospital when I was in the hospital in 1999. They did it to another girl that I went to when I my paralegal course. She was in my class. They did it to her mother too. And everybody said they were never the same. Fuckers. Por ethnicity. Further, the act provided that no surgeon performing an operation could be held liable to any civil action by reason of the operation. Just realize me. Don't people see that they do whatever they want and they get away with it? What you're witnessing is the attacks we're putting on me because I'm bringing it forward. Damn it. Amendments. In 1937, when did World War II start?
According to Holocaust Encyclopedia, United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, September 1st, 1939, Germany invades Poland, initiating World War II in Europe. September 3rd, 1939, honoring their guarantee of Poland's borders, Great Britain.
1939, 2 years prior. 2 years prior to the home. An amendment, 1937, an amendment to the act was proposed by Dr. W. W. Cross, Social Credit, Minister of Health, Social Credit. Ain't everybody saying that China is doing the social credit, but yet it's saying social credit? Fuckers, you shut up. Good. Minister of Health. What is social credit? Oh, it's SC check, SC, and then a check mark. See? Alberta Social Credit was a provincial political party in Alberta, Canada,
and that was founded in social credit monetary policy put forward by Clifford Hugh Douglas and on conservative fuckers. Ugh, conservative Christian social values. The Canadian social credit movement was largely outgrowth of Alberta's social credit. The Social Credit Party of Canada was strongest in Alberta, both developing a big and real ca- coyote, CAOUPTTE, agreed to merge its Millennium Creditacy movement into the federal party. Yes, the government is corrupt, but it's not at all. At least we're hoping. Luckily, they got stuff in place to see who it is. Movement into the federal party. British Columbia Social Credit Party formed a government for many years in neighboring British Columbia, although this was effectively a coercion of the center-right forces in the province that had no interest in social credit monetary policies. The Alberta Social Credit Party won a majority government in 1935. Now, it refers to Christian values in the subject because it's right here. In 1937, an amendment of the Act was proposed by Dr. Cross, Social Credit Health, or Minister of Health. Hey, in 2020, when I was voting stuff, I got the name of our health minister for Canada at that time. See? So I was telling people then, as the act was considered too restrictive. It was accepted that sterilization was permitted for the benefit of the human race. Not the individual, and as such, consent was no longer deemed a requirement. It's that part of, with the government and, these platform. I know that you don't want this getting out, but it's too fucking bad because your system has been overridden. People are able to get things through, whether you think they can't or not. It's no longer deemed a requirement. At that time, Albertans seriously affected by the Great Depression believed the sterilization would affect a much saving in dollar. See? The fucking dollars. Saving dollars. Why? So, like, you know, they're already saving money, but you know, they're putting it in their own fucking pocket. Ito puri ay. Suku-sukulit yung matapuri kagusti. Okay? Puri patotoriam. Ito. The act was amended as follows. A distinction was made between psychotic persons and mental defective persons. During criteria, criteria for sterilization in both categories is no longer solely genetic. The risk of mental injury to the patient or progeny was now included as grounds for sterilization. Consent of the person to be sterilized or of the spouse, parent, guardian, or the minister continued to be needed only in the cases of psychotic patients. In addition, the exemption for civil action was extended to include any individual taking part in the surgical operations as well as persons in charge of mental institutions who had caused an inmate to be examined by the eugenics board. The act underwent another amendment in 1942 during the war, during World War II. This time to specifically broaden the category of mental health patients who could be detected to undergo sterilization. Despite knowledge of Nazi eugenic accolades, the Alberta Eugenics Board intended to increase the pace of sterilization. Persons with neurosyphilis, epilepsy, with psychosis, mental deterioration, and Huntington's disease could, with consent of the parent, be sterilized. An exception to consent was made for patients presenting with Huntington's or priori, who were also psychotic. Repeal, not helpful. Well, you know, sterilizing. Who are you to say who can be born and who can't? And I didn't mean the way that people just thought because I felt that stillness. because your government has no say over your body. Nobody has say over your body. And I just felt that because some people want to say they have say over their body. And when it comes to like what people talk about with regards to abortion, I must say they're okay with sterilizing people. Why is it wrong for somebody to have an abortion for whatever reason they have behind it? Seriously, it's okay for them to like sterilize you without your permission. But they want to tell you what you can do with your own body. They don't own you. They may say, people may say, they signed a piece of paper. Well, those papers are all null and void because they were never legal to begin with. Repeal. It was not until 1969, under the direction of Peter Longhead, progressive conservative and the leader of the opposition, the act was reviewed. Mr. Longhead's party intended to introduce a provincial bill of rights and renew an existing legislation that was directed in an effort to identify potentially conflicting legislation. Mr. Longhead attracted the act, attacked the act on legal and moral grounds, and the Progressive Conservative Party adopted repeal of the act as part of their platform. In 1972, David King MLA, Edmonton Highlands, was successful in introducing a bill to repeal sexual sterilization. Background: Canadian National Committee for Mental Health. In 1918, well, that was right after World War One and COVID hit, or not COVID, sorry, well, you used to say it was COVID because it was like apparently like COVID and it was the Spanish flu. In 1918, psychiatrists C.K. Clark and C. Hinnicks established the Canadian National Committee for Mental Hygiene. The CNCMH was a self-appointed body of experts available for consultation regarding mental health issues. The committee claimed that institutionalization of mental deranged or mental sorry, let me rephrase that. Institution of mental degenerates was both expensive and ineffective and prompted the use of preventative measures. The group was active in working for the testing of students and construction of training schools for mental defectives. In addition, they advocated tougher inspections and restrictions of immigrants.
Get it? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Mental health survey. Perhaps the most influential resource for radiationizing or rationalizing sterilization in the province of Alberta came in the form of a mental health survey. In 1919, Dr. Hinnix, professor of psychiatry at the University of Toronto and specialist on mental diseases, conducted a survey of the province. His goal was to formulate a treatment and training plan for the mentally deficient that would best serve society. The survey involved a few of faculties for the mentally abnormal. For results,
Oh, sorry. How about Alice? We're going in Wonderland. Is it? Yeah, Wonderland. Hey, oh my God! Woohoo! I was good. I heard magic mushrooms. Yeah, take a bite, but they have medicinal benefits, and they keep that away from you because they want to give you a fucking pill. Why don't they just learn how to help people with those? Kasi kumutututay, going down the rabbit hole. It's about when you go down the rabbit hole, know how to go in and check and come back out. Ele putu puri puri isi tutorial. Ano mundo puri puri ano mundo puri. Isu tu puri shala ka seria no puri gato tulus. We're all bad Alice's. That's the thing. The ones that are bringing stuff forward, that are going down the rabbit hole to figure out what it is that needs to be brought to the light. We are the bad Alice's. Koi matai? Isa to pore sa rin mo sura ka sara ato. Tukuro pa to kaya sara. You, bad Alice. And when the white rabbit, maybe the white rabbit, well, you can say, Jesus, Yeshua, Christ consciousness. Esa moto de eso, güey. No la pasó la química. Dice Copotón. I can turn that. Oh, shoot. Okay. That's what we were doing. So you gotta, in order to bring the darkness to the light, you have to be able to transmute, like it's got to come out. And then you got to have to set release. The results were published in the 1921 report
entitled Mental Hygiene Survey of the Province of Alberta. The report notes that these who suffer from a mental defect or mental disorder are rightly regarded as social liability and recommends careful screening of immigrants and the use of sexual sterilization to control the abnormal population. Dr. Hicks' committee describes a causal link between mental abnormality and immortality, legitimacy, criminality, prostitution, dependency. The suggestion that bad behavior and sexual immortality were directly related to mental deficiency gave rise to the concern of the public and politicians that these individuals pose a threat to society. I'm going to say it sounds a lot like some of the stuff that's in the Bible. What they in the Bible with prostitution. But asking like, why are they in prostitution? And if they choose to be in prostitution, why are there no protections for them? Some people may say, well, that's not right. That's a sin. You need to say it's a sin because you say it was in the Bible, but didn't they say about with regards to how Jesus or Yeshua or whoever treated the prostitute? Because I'm sure the fuck he didn't treat her like a piece of shit like they are. I've seen people that they had a friend they knew. She was a prostitute. But they would go on this street where prostitutes were known to be. Not the prostitute, but the ones that had the friend that was a prostitute. They would go on that street and they would literally throw fucking pennies at them. You're fucking ignorant. And you ought to feel foolish for yourself. The suggestion that bad behavior and sexual was a threat to society. Well, let's see. This morning, I believe this morning, my ex-husband told me, because I went upstairs and I heard him say, "I'll never put my DICK basically in me again." So I didn't know what was there, and I walked around the corner and I just told him, "I don't like." See, the thing is, he apologized for that later. See, the thing is, when he was talking about the increase in the cases of AIDS
So I went on and I looked it up. Oh, shit. Oh, wasn't that any photos? Oh, here we go. There. It's like, what the freak? Ano ba ito, Rhea? Sorry, ayun na. I'm gonna bring it up here. Up here it says in the 90s, right? There's a lot of people affected. Why is AIDS less common now? Annual diagnoses have declined by 12% between 2010 and 2022. Facts such as updated treatment guidelines, increased knowledge of status, and the ability of PrEP have contributed to these decreases. The decline has not occurred evenly across all populations. Okay? Now, you told me it was increased. Now, I'll tell you something. Who else does that? Donald Trump. He does the same thing. Like his brother said, or his nephew said. He throws out statistics. And he doesn't know anything about them. Because when I get an apology from him, my ex-husband, I'm very lucky to get it. He even thought that the population, because he was into the dogma, and he didn't even uh, he didn't even realize what was going on because that meant that he would go too. It included him because he's disabled. So he thought that there were too many people in the world. Is that part of seriously? To the ones that think there are too many people in the world, would you like to be the first? That's part of this, seriously. You think it should be everybody else, so maybe you should go first. If you agree with it. But you know what? We'd prefer you didn't. We prefer that none of this happened to anybody. And anyone that follows by this Sexual Sterilization Act, they should be charged with human. Yeah.
never be allowed to be in a position to do. The doctors, your license should be revoked and voided. Never to be able to practice again. In Canada, a doctor, they say that you get your license taken away in one place, you just go to the next practice. I don't see how that is even legal. If you're part of the government, you should have all your pensions taken away. That was just there. I addressed the government part of it and the health part of it. Let's see what else is part of it. In addition, the committee assumed mental abnormality could be detected early with various test instruments. In the course of their examination, they're also reviewing student behavior at the elementary level of administration intelligence tests to children who had been described by their teachers as troublesome, mischief makers, or general disruptions. If they think that your child is autistic, ADD, ADHD, why do you think that they're diagnosing so many kids with that? My ex-husband even said, my dad even said, you put a kid, well, my dad thinks that people like sit in the chair because they did when they were in school. But my ex-husband said that it creates an ADHD because kids are not meant to be sitting still. They're meant to be doing stuff, using their brain and moving around. That's when they're more productive. Teaching them life skills. Watched it in another country. Like, it was so cool watching these kids. It wasn't because they were enslaved. They were little kids and they were having fun cooking and cleaning their stuff up and making things and everything like that. Crocheting, sewing clothes, sewing their stuff together. They were learning, and that's not like teaching your child to do stuff like that, how to live in the world, real world. No friggin' wonder half of them are smarter than most people. These kindergarten kids were doing what adults can't even do. Yeah, that song, we're just doing what we're told. Well, I have to ask, fuck, if they told you to jump off a bridge, would you do it? Seriously. elementary school, elementary level of administrative intelligence, we can test to children who had been described as by their teachers as troublesome mischief makers or general disruption. According to the committee, the test revealed that, maybe that's the personality test. I was told by my employment support worker through community services that in order for me to be able to go to university, I'd have to do a $2,000 test. It was like a personality test or to find out where I was, like to find out what my IQ was and my intelligence before they'd allow me to go. It's like, seriously? Because they pay for it. Well, they don't pay for it all at once. And you know what my employment support worker said? Well, I had to get a student loan. And I'll be honest, he's part of the church. And I'm not throwing shade at the church. But I'm saying that, it said it up there earlier, Christian. Christians would be like a Christian. And then another one, and one of it was something with regards to human rights. And that would be like you have the Christian. That's more of the dogma. And then we have the Christianity of Mary Magdalene, which she was for everyone. According to the committee, the test revealed that such troublesome children were more prone to possess low IQ. I didn't read that until now, and I just said that about the IQ and stuff. And those ones are actually the ones that are extremely intelligent. Because my great niece, she's extremely freaking hyper. She's got a little bit of hyper on her too. But smart? She's beyond her fucking years. Same as my other great niece. It's like they're freaking adults. Seriously. It's a part of now. Parents might want to start like checking the schools. Parents should be able to stop in randomly. Oh, yeah, they should be. What right do you have to tell a parent that they can't see their child in the middle of the day? Maybe, they put cameras everywhere else. Maybe cameras should be in the classroom, in schools, in the classrooms, to see how teachers treat the students, what really goes on in the classroom. I feel that some people don't like that idea. They say it's a breach of privacy. Is it? Then I guess if nobody's doing anything, then they wouldn't have to worry about now, would they? Further, the children were interviewed, and a conclusion was reached that these same troublesome children also posed less sound moral values. It wasn't until much later that the IQ test would be recognized as culturally based. Fuck, see, they're splitting your kids, damn it! Che sottoporrettere! Culturally based. United Farmers of Alberta. Oh shit. God damn it. The United Farmers of Alberta, an agriculture lobbying group, responded quickly to the survey and called on the government to draft legislation for life segregation and for sterilization of the feeble-minded. Damn it. Damn it. The weight of the survey's results, combined with the growing fear that new immigrants were inferior, had generated fears over the protection of land and jobs. In 1923, under burling measures from the United Farms of Alberta, Minister Health Honorable R.G. Reid proposed sterilization of mental defectives as a probable alternative to aggregation in institutions, but concluded that public support would need to be developed. Put them against each other. Hurt me, you're only hurting yourself. The United Farm Women of Alberta, a group affiliated with the United Farms of Alberta, answered Reid by launching a campaign for public support in 1924. The group's president, Miss Margaret Gunn, stated democracy was never intended for degenerates. Fuck, that's almost everyone. Purite. So to be honest, with regards to what Donald Trump said to his nephew, I guess Donald Trump is on board with the sexual sterilization. United Farm Women, and so that means women we're in on it. United Farm Women of Alberta, a group affiliated with the United Farms of Alberta, intervened by launching a campaign for public support in 1924. The group's president, S. Margaret Gunn, stated that democracy was never intended for degenerates. In addition, group member, well, those degenerates are the ones that are fucking voting for what you guys do. So go. Would you like rather me to go tell you to go pound sand or go fuck yourself? Spirit to spirit. And those spirits know exactly who I'm talking. In addition, group member Miss J.W. Field would go on to serve as secretary of the Alberta Eugenics Board. This group would also recommend compulsory medical examinations before marriage for all Albertans. Well, shit. Hey, man. Don't we do it now that before you can get married, you have to go in and see, talk with like have these therapy things with the pastor? Yes, or something like that. So people with mental health disabilities and genetic diseases, we're not supposed to be cared about or loved, right? So they think. Other influences. In Western Canada, many influential citizens and interest group campaign for segregation campaign for segregation and sterilization of the feeble-minded. Hear that? Influential. And if any of my ancestors were involved, what's your fucking malfunction? And who the hell do you think you are? Emily Murphy, the first female magistrate for the British Empire. Okay, the term magistrate, M-A-G-I-S-T-R-A-T-E, is used in a variety of systems of governments and laws to refer to a civilian officer who administers the law. In ancient Rome, magistrate, that word was one of the highest ranking government officers and possessed both jurisdictional and executive powers. For that ancient Rome. Seriously. Dito por ito. Shit. And they say that the Nazis were looking up to Rome. That's why some are saying that no, that was the Roman. They're both the fucking same because they go by the same thing. Whether people want to believe that or not, I don't think. And plus, my ancestors are, telling me stuff. by leaving clues behind by me going into my ancestral line. So I know that some of my ancestors were against certain individuals and some weren't. Same as the Christianity. It's Christian and Christianity. It's Christianity. It's more of Christ consciousness, not a dogma, not a sterilization, because of the undesirables. For the British Empire was a prolific and influential writer who organized meetings and addressed many women's groups in support of negative eugenics. J.S. Woodsmith, preacher and superintendent of All People's Mission in Winnipeg, conducted and published studies on immigration and social response. Wordsworth's report concerning the quality of immigrants' aid in creating a public crisis. Together, their individuals published numerous articles in popular magazines and spoke at public meetings in support of sterilization. That was a preacher. And I just said all what I did before I said that because I didn't see that. Specifically, con la señora María Gabriel, Soto, there are also ties to the University of Alberta. Dr. John M. Macreechan, M.A. John M. Macechan, John Malcolm. He was a Canadian philosopher and psychologist whose most notable credentials involved the development of the Psychology and Philosophy Department at the University of Alberta. He was a co-founder of the Canadian Psychological Association and the appointed chairman of the Alberta Eugenics Board, which was responsible for approving the sterilization of thousands of Albertans, hundreds of which were without consent. In the early years, he was born in Glencoe, Ontario, in Canada, to David and Christine. After finishing his primary education in the public forum. Go read it. Now, a lot of people are saying about what you get taught. So some people say you don't get taught to hate people in school and in university. Well, shit, that says differently. Seriously. They say we don't get taught this stuff, but you know, we do. You just don't know you're being taught it. Sit with me, eh? Sit with it. Read the Sexual Sterilization Act for yourself. And read all about who was involved. And then ask yourself how you've been being treated. There are also ties to the University of Alberta, Dr. John Mackie, founder of the Department of Philosophy and Psychology. That's why we have the Department of Psychology. Was also longtime chairman of the Eugenics Board. And Robert Charles Wallace, president of the University of Alberta in 1934, was an outspoken supporter of eugenic sterilization. The highest form of provincial government would show support. Premier John Edward Brownlee stated that the argument of freedom or right of the individual can no longer hold good where the welfare of the state and the society is concerned. Did you hear that? The highest form of provincial government would show support. Premier John Edward Brownlee stated that the argument of freedom or right of the individual can no longer hold good where the welfare of the state and of society is concerned. Many other factors influenced public opinion, including the creation in 1930 of the Eugenics Society of Canada, acceptance of sterilization laws in many of the United States. Hey! Thank you. It might be getting a little messy right now, but you know. Let me read that again. Many other factors influenced public opinion, including the creation in 1930 of the Eugenics Society of Canada, acceptance of sterilization laws in many of the United States, and numerous newspapers, magazines, and books touting sterilization as a remedy for rapidly increasing social problems. So now, go look in the newspapers in Canada and the United States from the 1930s, because it says it's in the numerous newspapers, magazines, and books touting sterilization as a remedy for rapidly increasing social problems. Oh, they're trying to increase social problems. Did you catch that? Holy shit! See? Like, seriously. I'll read that part again because this is both Canada and the States. Many other factors influenced public opinion, including the creation in 1930 of the Eugenics Society of Canada, anticipated or acts, or sorry, Eugenics Society of Canada, acceptance of sterilization laws in many of the United States, and numerous newspapers, magazines, and books touting sterilization as a remedy for rapidly increasing social problems. It's the remedy. They make you sick, and they have fun doing it. They have fun, like, oh crap, doing that. It's a game to them. You're the pawn. Because if they were royal, if they were kings or queens, they would be on the forefront, defending not people, defending the people, not trying to kill them or control them or use them. Sexual sterilization on trial. In 1995, Leilani, Leilani, Muir, Muir, sued Alberta for stigmatization as a moron, wrongful confinement and sterilization, wrongful confinement and sterilization. At the age of 10, Muir, an unwanted and abused child, was admitted to provincial training school for mental defectives, PTS, in Red Deer, Alberta. She was confined to the facility. She was confined to the faculty. Yeah, I know the word facility. Thank you. Until 1965, when she left against medical direction. Years later, during struggles with infertility, failed marriages, and depression, Muir would learn that she had been sterilized during an epidemic, endomecty, a epidemic, a double a breast removal. Well, I think that's what's saying, yeah. While detained at the PT, oh, I wonder, like, I don't know if that's what they call the electroshock therapy. Okay, so it is. Well, detained at the PTS, Provincial Training School. Further IQ testing would reveal that Muir did not suffer from mental deficiency. The court ruled in favor of the plaintiff and awarded Muir 740,780 Canadian and an additional sum of 230,000 Canadian for her legal costs. The precedent-setting case opened doors for individuals seeking retribution for suffering under sexual sterilization. Well, it's like this, governors. have to say that the population has been subject to it. So I guess the population wouldn't they be due reparations? Seriously, because you hurt us all. That's called crimes against humanity, abuse of power, abuse of authority, and it's a premeditated murder too. Shit. Ah! I guess my lawyer gave me all those, left all of his law books to me for a reason. And luckily, the spirit guides me to it and then speaks up when needs to speak. The spirit brings out what's true when I'm doing this, and that's why I'm like, why you witness my body go the way it does. Que te puede parecer en otro comportamiento. Party intended to introduce a provincial Bill of Rights. Let's see the Bill of Rights. Bill of Rights. A Bill of Rights, sometimes called a Declaration of Rights or a Charter of Rights, is a list of the most important rights to the civilians of a country. The purpose is to protect those rights against infringement from public officials and private citizens. Now, let's see back here at the very bottom. Said about they didn't create democracy for the degenerates. It's right here at the Bill of Rights. Here it says the highest form of provincial government which shows support. Premier John Edward Brownlee stated that the argument of freedom or right of the individual can no longer hold good where the welfare of the state and the society is concerned. I will go back to Bill of Rights. bill of rights, sometimes called the Declaration of Rights, or Charter of Rights, is a list of the most important rights that civilians of a country, of to civilians of a country. The purpose is to protect those rights against infringement from public officials, which is your government, and private citizens, which would be, possibly your doctors or corporate businesses that's making profit, churches, and like people. Well, I mean, I say churches because there was a pastor involved in it too, in the sexual sterilization. Bill of Rights may be entrenched or unentrenched. An entrenched Bill of Rights cannot be amended or repealed by a country's legislation through regular procedure, instead requiring a supermajority or referendum. Often it is part of a country's constitution and therefore subject to special procedures applicable to constitutional amendments. Shit. See? Molto può essere. Here's the picture of it right there. History. The history of legal characters assisting contain rights for particular groups goes back to the Middle Ages and earlier. Jesus Christ. See? Purita decide donen. Sila sonraki silo Korea ma Korea no to purite di sutoi. An example of Magna Carta, an English legal charter agreed between the king and his barons in 1215. So now I know I was in that picture. I was drawing oligarchy. Put me this way, because here's just you. Yeah, now I can actually put it bigger on the screen for people. This is the oligarchy. This here stuff is this here is the oligarchy. Right, the world, God's above, the ants. Now That's it broke down. My body's just buzzing right now. That's the picture. They make the eggs because there's a sperm. They have eggs. Hearts, zoology of the eyes, and ears. There's the angels, the people, sky people, the ants, worker ants, that comprise us. This is the world. This is a lot of KKK and trees and fire up behind bees. There's the church. It's got a penis effing us from behind. And like I said, that's it. Spelled out for you. Have you ever been called an ugly bag? Ugly unkept? That's the undesirables. That's stuff I was channeling. Get back to the Bill of Rights. Middle Ages and earlier. An example of Magna Carta, an English legal charter agreed between the king and his barons in 1215. In the early modern period, there was review, renew, renewed interest in Magna Carta. English common law judge Sir Edward Coke revived the idea of rights based on civil or civilianship. See history and civilianship by arguing civilian describes the changing relation between an individual and the state, known as citizenship. Citizenship is generally identified not as an aspect of Eastern civilization, but as Western civilization. There is a general view that citizenship in ancient times was simpler. Arguing the Englishmen had historically enjoyed such rights. The Petition of Right in 1628, the Habeas Corpus Act 1679, and the Bill of Rights 1689, English Bill of Rights, established certain rights in statute. In the 13 colonies, the English Bill of Rights was one of the influences on the 1776 Virginia Declaration of Rights, which in turn influenced the United States Declaration of Independence. Yes, people were in Canada before they were in the States. They were in the States 1,000 years ago when they came to Canada in the 1500s. I may be wrong about that, but I have it installed. So I will go back and look. Virginia Declaration of Rights, which in turn influenced the United States Declaration of Independence later that year. After the Constitution of the United States was adopted in 1789, the United States Bill of Rights was ratified in 1791. The U.S. Constitution and Bill of Rights were influenced by British constitutional history. See? God damn it! Good shit, man. What is that for this? Umiesz, ale nie mam mówić, pana. Co to jest? Singu. Ale mo nuri ano huri hay no to say. Inspired by the Age of Enlightenment and Declaration of Rights of Man and of the Citizen, asserted the universality of rights. It was adopted in 1789 by France National Constitution Assembly during the period of the French Revolution. My ancestors came from France. They came here in 1752. To the British constitutional. Inspired by the Age of Enlightenment, the Declaration of Rights of Man and of the Citizens asserted the universality of rights. Universality. That means everyone. Throughout the world and into the universe. So whether they're in or they're from that, or not from this world. But it all applies to everyone the same. It was adopted in 1789 by France National Constitution for Constitution and Assembly. What is that? It was a constitute assembly in the Kingdom of France, formed from the National Assembly on July 9, 1789, during the first stage of the French Revolution. It dissolved on September 1791 and was succeeded by legislature during the period of the French Revolution. The 20th century saw different groups draw on these earlier documents for influence when drafting the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The European Convention on Human Rights and the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Children. Exceptions in Western democracy. Well, according to the Sexual Sterilization Act, the undesirables, they have no right to democracy wasn't made for that. The Constitution of the United Kingdom remains codified. However, the Bill of Rights, 1689, 1989 is part of the UK law. The Human Rights Act 1998 also incorporates the rights contained in the European Convention of Human Rights into UK law. In the 21st century, there were proposals for a British Bill of Rights, and the UK Parliament debated the Bill of Rights bill, but it was not passed into legislation. Australia is the only common law country with neither a constitutional or federal legislative Bill of Rights to protect its citizens, although there is ongoing debate in many of Australia's states. In 1973, Federal Attorney General Leland Lionel Murphy introduced a human rights bill into Parliament, although it was never passed. In 1984, Senator Garth Evans drafted a Bill of Rights, but it was never introduced into Parliament. And in 1985, Senator Leland or Lonnie Lionel, I don't know, Brownie or Boney, can't pronounce it, Bowen, introduced a Bill of Rights, which was passed by the House of Representatives, but failed to pass the Senate. So your government don't want you having any rights. You not know that. At least that Senate didn't. Former Australian Prime Minister John Howard has argued against a Bill of Rights for Australia on the grounds it would transfer power from elected politicians to unelected judges and bureaucrats. Victoria, Queen's Island, and the Australian Capital Territory, ACT, are the only states and territories to have a Human Rights Act. However, the principle of legal legitimacy present in the Australian judicial system seeks to ensure that legislation is interrupted so as not to interfere with ensure that legislation is interrupted so as not to interfere with basic human rights unless legislation expressly intends to interfere. Yeah, I feel people too. We're all sitting there just trying to figure out what that means. You know what that means? However, the principle of legality, legitimacy presents to the Australian judicial system. The Australian judicial system, they're seeking to ensure that the legislation is interrupted. So is that to interfere? They don't want to interfere with rights. Right. List of Bill of Rights. Charter of Liberties. Realm, that was effective in 1100. Realm, England. Note. Rights of inheritance and marriage, amnesty, and environmental protection. Magna Carta, 1215, England. Rights for barons. Charter of Ireland, 16, Ireland, rights of barons. What are barons? What are barons? Meaning of barons.
Here's the definition of baron: a member of the lowest order of the British nobility. The term baron is not used as a form of address in Britain, barons usually being referred to as lord.
It's like that word I just heard, like I just got landlord. Golden Bull of 1222, Hungary, rights for nobles. Statute of Policy, 1964 or 1264, Poland, Jewish residents' rights. Charter of Kortenberg, 1312, Arpen, Arpen, rights for all civilians, rich and poor. Dancing Code, 1349, Siberia, nothing's there. 12 articles. There's Second Week, nothing. Pacta, Poland, nothing there. American articles, nothing there. That's Poland. Petition of Right, England, nothing there. So we're gonna Philippines, Bill of Rights, encapsulating Article 3, regulars, regulars, regulates duties and responsibilities of the government towards the rights of civilians, while Article X 111 is specifically about human rights and social justice. That's the Philippines. One Bill of Rights, 1947. Canada, Saskatchewan. First Bill of Rights adopted in the British Empire Commonwealth since the English Bill of Rights. Implied Bill of Rights, Canadian Constitutional Law, 1938 Canada. The Bill of Rights implied by the Constitution Act, 1867, first identified in reference to the Alberta statutes in 1938. Reference to Alberta statutes, also known as the Alberta Press Case and the Alberta Press Act reference, is a landmark reference of the Supreme Court of Canada, where several provincial laws, including one restricting the press, were struck down and struck down. Is a landmark reference of the Supreme Court of Canada, where several provincial laws, including one restricting the press, were struck down, and the existence of An implied Bill of Rights protecting civil liberties such as a free press was first proposed. And they're suppressing what they're doing. There's free press people out there, and they're saying they're debunked. Cos'è era? If it doesn't fit their agenda, then what is the implied? The implied Bill of Rights, French Declaration, the droit implicit is a theory in Canada. Jurisprudence, which proposed that as a consequences of the British North American Act, certain important civil liberties could not be abrogated, uh, abrogated, could not be abrogated. Okay, so let's see what else is in there. Could not be repealed or do away with. Law, right, or formal agreement. A proposal to severally the right to strike. More important civil liberties could not be by the government. The significance of an implied bill and the significance of an implied Bill of Rights has decreased since the adoption of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and extension and an entrenched written Bill of Rights, but remains important for understanding the evolution of Canadian human rights law and the Constitution of Canada. In the 1938 of reference three Alberta statutes and the Supreme Court of Canada first recognized and applied the rights and freedoms that are protected under the Charter, including the rights to freedom of speech, habeas corpus, and the perception of innocence, have their roots in a set of Canadian laws and legal precedents related to implied rights, although implemented in judici, ju, juice, judiciary law, Judiciary law, and a part of required reading in Canadian law schools. The theory was never codified either in legislation or in the Constitution by the majority of the Supreme Court of Canada. Prior to the advent of the Canadian Bill of Rights in 1960 and the successor Charter of Rights and Freedoms in 1982, the laws of Canada did not provide much in the way of civil rights, and it was typically to limit concerns to the courts. So with the Sexual Sterilization Act, the Bill of Rights, the Sexual Sterilization Act violates the Bill of Rights. It's like, holy shit, man. But now there's 3 things I did today. Well, what have you, because I pointed out with regards to free trade and tariffs, and with free trade, it's uh, basically free from tariffs. And let's see, we'll do this again. Meaning of free trade.
Here's the definition of free trade. International trade left its natural course without tariffs, quotas, or other restrictions.
But your government puts tariffs. It says free from tariffs and other restrictions and brewers. So that's another thing. The free trade, they're not supposed to be able to put tariffs on it. So how are they putting tariffs on it? The same as the Sexual Sterilization Act violates the human rights. Then the tariffs violate free trade. What queria saber, hein? Sukurin, bishkale suruito, porita prin. You know, if you didn't see my video and see all of it and you want to check it out, then hey, go to Spirit on YouTube, go to Spirit Teachings of Going Within Self. I mean, it may be digitizing some, but that's because my energy is very alive. Maybe that's why people aren't able to stay in one, because they come in and just constantly digitize. People put it that is. Spirit's been directing me to get this back. Now, the psychic short oracle deck. When I read it, I see what does the universe want to tell the people. First card that came up was heartache and loss. Okay, because a lot of people have lost people because of this. And it's those needles, the most recent needles too, that they're telling everybody to put in themselves. Prove me wrong. Because people said that after people got those needles, people lost babies and everything. Women lost babies and everything. Since they've been doing this, hasn't the sperm rate dropped and the production of eggs in the woman has subsided? Like more people are going and having to get
some kind of help to have babies, that's your sexual sterilization. Think about it. Or not. But I do recommend that you sit and go read it for yourself. You might have a good cry, especially if you look at your own life, your children's life, your family's life. Ooh, that comes up there. Well, okay, the universe. I'll take that one first because the question was, what does the universe want to tell you? So the universe card tonight. No such thing as coincidences, just synchronicity. You've come so far on your journey, and it's time to be rewarded for your efforts. This card symbolizes completion, triumph, peace, liberation, and fulfillment. Everything you've achieved for is written, is within your reach. Meet it halfway and grab at the universe and grab it. The universe is the last of the major arcana cards and reflects the work that you've accomplished on your travels. But more importantly, it represents the wisdom that you've gained along the way. You would now honor and acknowledge the truly wonderful soul that you are and the acceptance, the vital part, and accept the vital part that you play in the bigger scheme of life. The world is yours to command, and you're free to travel in whatever direction your heart desires. You're connected to everything and in the cosmos. The universe card is a reminder that you, the same and that reminder that the same energy making up the stars in the sky and the same energy that's coursing through the universe is in each and every individual. In ancient times, many believed that each star was the soul of one person. They also believed that these souls shared some brightly, shined so brightly to others through the darkness, and so too in your wise soul. Prosperity begins. Choose wisely. I don't pick sides. Material harvest, like that. When I looked at that and I read it, I could feel it in my body that it was kind of it was almost like it was an attack. Form of intimidation. Sometimes it's to keep you second guessing yourself. A material harvest. So oh, and they're all the red ones. Tree. Here are the seeds that were growing. Neat.
positive movement forward. You're a true artisan, artisan. You have the craft, skills, knowledge, gifts, and talents to assist you even more to advance in positive direction. The number 8 also denotes prosperity and abundance. But in this case, it's your efforts that have gotten you to this point. Good for you. This card often comes forth to honor and recognize individuals who are in the field of art, design, music, and education. When you follow and build on your passion, the soul can truly express itself and then assist you to move closer toward your highest good. An opportunity could suddenly come up with an offer for an apprenticeship. Notice if there are areas of passion that are trying to manifest into your world. When they arise, you'll have ample moments to share them with others. Prosperity begins. This card brings a message of beginnings, prosperity, wealth, and new business, which could soon be in the palm of your hand. It may result from your hard work, past efforts, and investments, or it could show up unexpectedly. It may even be presented as a gift. With careful and diligent planning, recent endeavors and money-making ideas show great possibilities and promise of monetary gains. When I talk about money, it's almost like I get irritated. Because I do say sometimes that sometimes I want to take money and shove it up people's asses. This is a time to focus on the most beneficial outcome. Accept the best and envision that project or new job having successful results. Feel it, see it, and most importantly, believe it. When you focus on abundance and the positive aspects of the material world and other gratitude, prosperity in all forms will flow even more freely. I'm like when I said about the material world, I got irritated. It's because a lot of our ancestors experienced the material world, but it was the experience. That experience came from the greed of material world, greed of the monetary world, and greed of the spiritual. Material harvest. One of the laws of the universe is what you sow, you reap. This card states that this is your time to reap the harvest you've worked for and so rightly deserve. This last physical card denotes self mastery, self sufficiency, independence, security, and the art of enjoying what you strive for. You've done the hard work, Learn the lessons along the way and use them to prosper in all areas of your life. The number 9 also means endings. Not that good fortune necessarily stops, but do honor yourself as you finish up or celebrate the completion of a project. This would be the perfect time to look ahead and use the wisdom you've gained to think about what else you want to achieve. Consider smarter investments and ponder ideas that show profitable potential. And profitable, like got a little bit of that, and profitable, it doesn't necessarily mean money. If it's 4% profitable within a relationship, a love way, family, to make things better. Congratulations on your success. So with that being said, I'm sending you all much love, light, many blessings, most importantly, very good health to anyone and everyone wanting and willing to receive themselves. I want you all to be big, bold, brave. Most importantly, be yourself. Be your authentic self. Be who you are, not who you have to be. Be kind to yourself, to others, and know that you have more strength than you can help. You got this.